Up next, 7 courtroom narratives so bizarre they seem straight out of a legal thriller. Are you ready? Number 1. Franklin Williams. This is Franklin Williams, who was convicted of multiple felonies, including armed robberies and fleeing police in Cleveland. It's normal for criminals to maintain an innocent facade during their trial in hopes of convincing the judge for a reduced sentence. But Williams had other ideas. He refused to remain silent during his sentencing, even after the judge repeatedly warned him of the consequences of his actions and words. At one point, the judge even said,
Mr. Williams, listen to me. If we have to, I will gag you in 1 second. So listen, you will get a chance to talk. I'm gonna gag you in 1 second, so just listen to me.
But Williams was in no mood to remain silent at his sentencing and continued to rile the judge until he ordered the culprit's mouth to be taped shut. How do you think he reacted to that? The judge declared that Williams faced a potential maximum consecutive sentence of 134 years, but was given a 24-year prison sentence. After it was all over, the judge apologized for taping Williams' mouth with duct tape and retracted his sentence, appointing a new judge on the case. However, Williams was definitely out of luck as the new judge sentenced him to 33 years behind bars. If you thought Williams's actions in court were disgraceful, you wouldn't believe the audacity of the next convict. Number 2, Christopher McNabb. This is Christopher McNabb, a father who was convicted for the murder of his 2-week-old daughter. Baby Kalia was reported missing on the morning of October 7, 2017 by her mother Belle. A search party was sent out immediately to look for the innocent soul, but they never expected to find the lifeless body of Kalia hidden under a log in nearby woods the following day. The ruthless murder of a 2-week-old baby sent waves of shock across the community, and both Chris and Belle looked devastated. The autopsy report revealed the baby died of blunt force trauma to the head, further intensifying the parents' pain. The grieving father, Chris, went on record demanding justice for the untimely and brutal death of Kalia. But what happened next was even more shocking. The police arrested Chris and Belle in 2017 for the murder of their daughter. During the trial, when the judge asked Chris what punishment the man or woman who committed this heinous act deserved, he confidently replied that they deserved to get the maximum sentence. Little did he know the judge was asking him to decide his own fate. The court found both parents guilty and convicted Chris in May 2019 on charges of malice murder, felony murder, aggravated battery, cruelty to children, and concealing the death of another. He was sentenced to life in confinement without parole. Kalia's mother was also put away on charges of second-degree murder, cruelty to children, and contributing to the delinquency of a minor. Wait until you hear about the next criminal who pushed the judge too far. Number 3, Camilla Gamet. Camilla Gamet was charged with the murder of her boyfriend in Jackson, Mississippi. The unfortunate incident occurred when the two got into a heated argument, resulting in Gamet stabbing her boyfriend repeatedly until he was dead. During her trial, Gamet insisted that she was the victim in the case and had no choice but to attack her boyfriend, or he would have killed her. But the judge wasn't buying any of her lies, and she was ultimately found guilty of first-degree murder. At her sentencing, Gamet kept interrupting the judge without paying heed to any of his warnings. At one point, the judge even ordered her to remain silent, or else he would have to tape her mouth shut with duct tape. Do you think Gamet listened? Not at all. In fact, she showed no remorse for her actions, further infuriating the judge. However, the judge's final words set the score right, shocking everyone in the courtroom. He said,
"You stab, you stab, you stab, you stab until he was dead. You didn't think he was an intruder. You know, maybe one stab wound, okay, maybe that's self-defense. But you put in 11 more to make sure he was good and dead."
The next courtroom drama went viral for all the right reasons. Are you ready for another shocking sentence? Number 4, Andrea Cook. This is Andrea Cook, an 18-year-old found guilty of carjacking charges in Volusia County, Florida. Using a dating app, Cook conspired with her then 17-year-old boyfriend, Kendrick Bass, and lured the victim and a friend to South Daytona. The duo wanted to carjack, but ended up shooting the victim and leaving him on the spot in critical condition. Only 2 days later, they attempted another carjacking, but were apprehended before they could hurt anyone. Video of Cook's first sentencing went viral on social media in June, garnering millions of views. Can you imagine why? As the judge sentenced her to 20 years, Cook's mother broke down in tears, wailing at the unexpected turn of events. Apparently, there had been a miscommunication between Cook's family and the public prosecutor, and the former had been assured that Cook wouldn't get any jail time. Cook's mother was unable to control her emotions at her sentencing, and watching her, Cook let go of her composure and fell to the ground sobbing. She eventually had to be carried out from the courtroom as she lost consciousness on the floor. The judge reconsidered her sentence a year later and reduced it to 11 years in prison. The next criminal's response was so extreme that it shook everyone in the courtroom. Number 5. Jacob Morgan. Meet Jacob Matthew Morgan, a 17-year-old who was convicted and sent to prison for setting off a fire that killed his 14-month-old baby brother. The scene of Morgan's emotional reaction in court after the judge claimed there was probable cause to believe he committed the crimes caught worldwide attention. At that moment, there was no doubt left in Morgan's mind that his case would proceed to trial and his life would never be the same. In 2015, Morgan started a fire at a Rock Hill, South Carolina, mobile home that claimed an innocent life. The culprit pled guilty to involuntary manslaughter, third-degree arson, and unlawful neglect of a child. Morgan never confessed to killing his stepbrother, but always maintained that he loved him and would never cause him harm. He was ultimately sentenced to 15 years in prison, but was released after only 7 years as his crimes were defined as non-violent under South Carolina law. Hence, the term he had served was considered adequate, and Morgan was let go on probation. Up next is a criminal mind that kept the police on its toes for 25 years. Number 6. Kimberly Kessler. This is Kimberly Kessler, a murderer with 18 false identities. Kimberly was working at Tangle's hair salon in Fernandina Beach, Florida, as Jennifer Seibert when one of her co-workers, Jolene Cummings, began suspecting her true identity. Only a month later, Cummings went missing, and Kessler tried her best to disguise her actions, but some crucial mistakes on the way made her the prime suspect in the case. When Kimberly was apprehended, she casually revealed her identity in a videotaped interview. She confessed her real name was Kimberly Lee Kessler, and that she had been on the run for over 25 years. She was charged with the brutal murder of Cummings in September 2018, after which she went on a hunger strike, dropping to a skeletal 89 pounds to prove incompetence for trial. However, the judge outsmarted her and declared her mentally competent, but that didn't stop her from ranting during every court hearing she was wheeled into. Her frequent outbursts during trial forced the judge to send her to a separate room. Still, she continued to hurl accusations at the public defender, claiming that Jordan Beard was Jolene's cousin every time she was brought in. She was finally sentenced to life in prison without parole. If you're shocked at Kessler's violent outbursts, the next convict will have you gripping your seat in anticipation. Number 7. Ignacio Rodriguez. Ignacio Rodriguez was sentenced to 50 years in prison after he pleaded guilty to causing the death of his 4-month-old son. Around 11:30 p.m., police reached Rodriguez's residence, where they found paramedics treating an unresponsive toddler. The perpetrator had placed the baby face down in his crib for about 10 minutes before calling 911. The child had a pulse and was transported to Children's Santa Rosa Hospital. But later reports revealed the baby was suffering from a fractured skull with bleeding in his brain and retinal hemorrhaging in both eyes. Rodriguez was initially booked for injury to a child, but when his son died a few days later, the authorities upgraded the charges against him. In court, Rodriguez pleaded to a charge of intentional or knowing injury to a child causing serious bodily injury. However, the proceeding took an unexpected turn when the baby's mother, Angela Gonzalez, was allowed to confront him about the death of their son. "I hate more than anything what you did to our son, and for that, I can never see myself forgiving you," she said. "You were supposed to be our protector, not the one to break our hearts." Her words hit a chord, and things began to get intense when she mentioned her daughter and how she was bound to ask questions as she got older. Rodriguez was unable to contain himself despite his lawyer's advice and started shouting, "Then tell her the truth! Tell her the truth! Tell her the truth! Tell it! Everybody how it was supposed to be! Tell her the whole truth!" Before the mother could respond, Rodriguez was escorted out of the courtroom. Which out of these courtroom sentences did you find the most disturbing? If you thought these moments were shockingly outrageous, you wouldn't believe these bizarre court scenes caught on camera.